there's no reason, right? Like you can sync so many Google calendars together, and
the more that I have sacrificed, the more I have benefited.
Anyone that raises their hand, right? If someone fills out a form somewhere, right? Those are leads.
Roofing is very simple to understand your direct costs. You understand your labor, you understand your material.
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you haven't, push one of those buttons there, one that maybe says like or subscribe or comment, one of those things. Leave us a review. If you want to take the conversation beyond what you're just listening to here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today we have John DeLaurier. I'm going to pronounce it really terribly. DeLaurier. John DeLaurier from DeLaurier Roofing down in Savannah, Georgia, and from Proline, and also a co-host of the Roofer Show.
That's right. We're now the Roofer Coach. Yeah, we're now the Roofer Coach podcast. So we do coaching.
Do coaching also. That's awesome, man. So, John, let's get your backstory. How did you get into roofing?
It's much like a lot of people I've heard. It's like I didn't choose roofing. Roofing kind of chose me. And I was leaving university in 2009, and there were no jobs in 2009. So I had always owned businesses, specifically landscaping businesses. And I was doing that, but I wanted to do something different. I had a friend who worked for a roofing company, and that's really how it started. Learned that I saw that the reward of actually helping a customer with that project can be nerve-wracking and there's a lot of uncertainty in the roofing world. Got kind of the bug then, and then again just moved throughout the last decade from that, and in 2016 started my own business, DeLaurier Roofing, August of 2016. So that's the roofing side of things. And then I just really do love the industry, and I love the really great contractors. I've really, really enjoyed meeting everyone who wants to help the industry be better. And so that's my passion. Everything that I do now professionally is in the roofing space.
That's awesome. So 2016 launched the company. What gave you the bug to do it yourself?
It was one of those situations where you're working for a company, they owe you a bunch of money, and you realize you're never going to get paid. Kind of one of those things. So a lot of what I did in the beginning was kind of like survival mode. I've heard this story a lot. But I knew I was good at it. Even my old boss knew. He's like, "You're the best sales rep I've ever had." And it's like, I'm not really good at sales. I just understand the numbers. And so I knew I was going to basically base my whole company off of knowing my numbers, using technology to set myself apart from our competition. And so that's how I started. That's what really, and I like to have the big picture. That's really what it is. I like to help customers have a vision, give them an excellent customer experience.
Yeah. And it's so amazing that this is a common theme that I've had on the show. I've been trying to put together, but I hear it so often. It's creating a better customer experience than the company you worked for or than the other companies in your area. It just seems like if your goal is to do that, man, you're on the right path.
I think so. I mean, right? I think that's everything really, because
intention, maybe it's just the intention in your actions through your business, sure. Right?
Yeah, the values that you have as a person, as an owner, and everyone on my team too, they understand it. I have a lot of great people that work with me, and if they don't have the same vision and they're just wanting to sell, I've never been a great salesperson per se, but but I do care about each and every single homeowner that we work with. So I want to do an excellent job and provide an excellent service. And that's really why I'm able to sell and why my team's able to sell, because they see
Yeah.
that in me and in our company values.
I think people feel that too.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
They
It's a
can tell.
different thing. There's a different feeling when you feel, and we all have experienced it, right? When you feel like you're being sold something,
Sure.
versus where you feel like the person is really just trying to help bring you down and solve a problem with you. So 2016, what did that launch look like? Was it just you bought a truck,
Me and a truck. Yeah, I
wrapped
had
it,
a truck.
and went to work, or what? How'd
That's
that
pretty
start
much
off
it.
for you?
Yeah, I had a truck. I got some vinyl on it. Didn't have enough money to wrap it because, I had been working for months, essentially not getting paid. So it was rough in the beginning. But, the first thing that I ever did really was some really affordable, like local magazines and that basically the coupon magazines and go into that like real personal experience. And then that made a lot of mistakes. I mean, tons of mistakes in the beginning.
Of course.
Did postcards, but did not do them really well. The estimate system that I was using was just really simplistic. I think it was like an Excel sheet. There was a lot of mistakes. I knew I had to start selling jobs. I think we started in August, so I think we did a couple $100,000 of revenue actually that
fall
that year. Yeah, that fall. Which was I was pretty happy with. Now, again, I say revenue intentionally because there wasn't a lot of profit in there. And so I didn't know how to price jobs yet. And so the next year I learned that. And then kind of the reason that I'm involved with Dave Sullivan and the Roofer Show is because my shingle manufacturer sent me a link one day. He could tell that I was really wanting to help customers and not just trying to sell roofs. And he sent me a link to the podcast, the Roofer Show podcast, and I listened to 17 episodes that week, and I realized I was doing everything wrong. So I say that to if you're listening to this, watching this, consume this content. Consume content for people that are trying to help you grow, and do it at a ravenous pace, because it is the only thing that helps us. I mean, there's no university of roofing. This is it though. Go consume this content, consume as much as you can, and actually apply it. That's what I can say. That's what it really changed my business. I
get those texts all the time, John. Because if anyone listening here, my phone number, my direct phone number is in the show notes. So shoot me a text, and I get text, saying, man, I'm 10 episodes in, 15 episodes in. Yep. Thank you so much. I'm, at this point, I talked to someone last week. They were like, whenever I have an issue is coming up in my business, I go and search all the podcast episodes. I'll search search the podcast for keywords that may have, there might be an episode related to it and stuff like that. The information, it may not be formal education, right? But the information is out there nowadays in our show, in the Roofer Show, and so many other great content creators out there online. So the first thing was learning how to price jobs. Boy, that is a good lesson to learn. And it's probably a good lesson to learn early on, huh?
It is, yeah. So in the beginning, I remember I was just like, if I can just make $1,000 a roof, I'll be happy. And I was like, at the end of the day, even with my super low overhead, I didn't have an office or anything. I essentially had no money. So you've got to learn how to price jobs. And I'm not going to say that I've learned it perfectly now. Even this year, I'd say the biggest mistake, reflecting on 2022, is not pivoting because of the recession. So we're typically one of the highest priced roofing companies in our both markets. And that's fine if the recession is not here. We were very high close rate, all that things, but the same exact type customers, our ideal customers, were literally looking at price, and nothing could take them from that this year. At least in Athens and Savannah, they were very much price sensitive. And so always, I haven't figured it out. always have your ear to that. Like don't compromise your actual profitability. Like don't do stuff for free. But if you have to have a lower price point, right now I'm working on my similar quote to having a value option. And so if I'd done that, I probably would have sold a few $100,000 more of roofing this year.
So
and
now you have your good, better, best, and value.
Yeah. So that's really what it is. It's like we want to make sure that, we're still profitable, but always stay on that. Like never give up with that. And the next year, 2023, you're really, really going to be wanting to focus on that because at least in the first 2 quarters, super uncertain times. And so make sure you're profitable. But I mean, that's what I'm learning is to make sure that I'm actually selling the jobs too.
That's true. I mean, I went through, I think you said you kind of came out of school around that 2009, the economy was it was down at that time. And I was in the real estate business in real estate and mortgage back then. And I had 2008, when the market crashed, I started doing fix and flips, buying bank-owned properties and fixing them up and things like that. And my goodness, it was very easy to find affordable work.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'll just if that's a nice way of putting it. Right.
That's right.
Because the trades were in trouble at that time. There was not a lot of work out there. And so, pricing had to come down. So let's talk about it a few different ways, because I think this is a great conversation. So in the beginning, when you have low overhead and you're starting to, get things going in pricing in that startup phase of your business, when you have low overhead, what are the things that you're thinking about in pricing jobs?
So
what should someone be thinking
what I
about?
should have done is understood my numbers even more than I did. So
okay.
I'd say knowing your direct costs. Direct costs are roofing is very simple to understand your direct costs. You understand your labor, you understand your material, and if there's commission for sales reps, I mean, we're not even talking to that level yet, but let's just talk about material and labor and then talk about like how much are you going to mark it up? And so what is your margin going to be? And so I always use the example of like, if you're going to sell a roof for $10,000, then the minimum you want is a 30% margin. So 3,000 of that 10,000 better be profit. And that's a low end. I mean, that's really is a low end. You may be getting into the 20s, the upper 20s during 2023, depending on your market, but 30% is pretty low. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there selling 40, 50, 60% margin. And I've done it myself, and you can do it in the insurance side of things, but I'm just talking about retail specifically. So that's the one thing that I would figure out the most. The first thing I do is be laser focused on your exact material cost and your exact labor cost, and then try to hit that 30%. So whatever that number is, you need to know your average ticket or contract amount and need to track it, like using Job Nimbus or Job Progress or AccuLinks. Use a CRM to do that.
Yep.
I mean, if you don't want to spend money on that either, you can literally just create a Google sheet. That's what we've done before.
That's right.
The material, it's free. Material, labor, profit, and then we track all the other KPIs, all the margin and all the other stuff in there. But that's what I'd be doing the first. So this is, in my opinion now, this is an accounting business, and then it's a marketing business, and then it's a sales business, and then we'll get to roofing. That's really, really is. I mean, most people do it the complete opposite. We do roofs, and we sell roofs, and then we'll spend some money on marketing, and then we'll figure out with the accountant. That's the wrong way to think about this business. You need to know your numbers, and then everything has to be marketing, whether it's, you can do free marketing. I mean, today is a good example. I'm going to be putting out yard signs, not in jobs that I've done, but around the community to generate revenue. That's a free thing to do almost. We got dope marketing to do our yard signs, super affordable, great quality. Put them out there. That's an easy thing to do for marketing side of things. So that's what I'd be focusing on, just starting out like that.
Yeah, we'll get into. I like that idea too. We'll talk about that marketing from the start too. And the yard signs. I had another great owner on, Ethan Andes, who
Yeah.
that's what he did in COVID. Like
Oh yeah.
they couldn't knock doors, so he just went out and I mean hundreds of them just put out yard signs around all on street corners and different intersections and things like that, and created a network of billboards, right? Like
Yeah,
just
I know Ethan. I met him earlier this year. He is a master
yeah,
marketer. Like he knows,
master.
and
He's awesome.
yard signs are very is the way. It really is. It works. We
Yeah.
sold many jobs doing that. So
Yeah.
definitely
I
focus on
can't,
that.
like I said, I had that real estate background when we were, in real estate investing. That's a standard thing. We call them bandit signs, and they go on.
Yep.
You'll see them all over your city, unless your city has crazy ordinances. We buy your house for cash, right? It's those types of things, and those they work.
Yep.
So let's I kind of look at any business. You have your startup phase, then you have your scaling phase, and then you have your significance phase. And that significance phase varies based on your goals and where you want your company to be. But there's a point, right, where you're in this bootstrapping startup phase, and that's what we're talking about now and how to price jobs. But then as you're moving into a scaling phase, now you have to start thinking about other things, right? You have to start thinking about salaries of employees in your office, maybe. You may have to think about some of those marketing costs and all of the other things that go into your business. When you start moving into that phase, and you could change my verbiage or language around or around your thoughts, but when you start moving kind of out of that startup bootstrapping it phase and you're starting to get more consistent business, now, what are you thinking about in pricing your jobs?
Sure. So again, going back to the direct cost. So now you got a salesperson, probably some sort of commission structure there. You really need to focus on that. I mean, there's a lot of content about pay structures. In general, a lot of people are not going to like this. Roofing salespeople get paid too much. And I've seen it over and over again. You have to know your numbers so that when you're interviewing a salesperson, you're showing it to them. Be transparent. Hey, you can make a significant living, but we don't want to put the company out of business. So like, that's a huge thing. Sales drives more business. So you want to make sure that direct cost, whatever it is, if it's a salary plus commission, you have an indirect cost. But so you got to have the overhead part from the salary perspective, and then the direct cost, the commission part in your numbers. It gets more complicated as you get to that next phase in your business. So I would just say focus on that so much, and don't really think about what other companies in your market are charging. Focus on what you can charge, because you're going to give your salespeople confidence to sell at this is a $20,000 roof. Why are we so high compared to the other $16,000? This is the reason why you're high. And that gives them confidence to sell the jobs. And this is the reason. They'll give all the reasons to the homeowner, like, hey, we're pricing this correctly. All of our material essentially costs the same. We're doing a complete roof system. You give them the ammunition by knowing your numbers. That's why, I mean, again, I was a terrible student in school. I was not a good student. I'm not a numbers person, but that's why I've had to work so hard. Know your numbers so that you're able to market and sell with the new salespeople. Same with production people. Make sure that's some people pay direct costs. They're like, if you manage this job, we're going to pay you directly from the actual overhead of this. Or it's not going to be overhead. It's going to be a direct cost for this job. So like, however you want to structure your business, you can choose to have direct costs or indirect costs. I've chosen to have as much direct costs with the sales. That way I can protect and lower my overhead as much as possible. So I'm not having just money bleeding all the time. I may pay people a little bit more because it's a direct cost, but at least I know what my margins are on every single job based on having as much people having a direct cost, not an indirect cost for all the jobs that we sell.
Nice. And that's, that is that phase of business, right? You're adding people. That That's the calculation there. And in that area, you're probably starting to add some more marketing, right? Because now you have sales reps. You have to keep them busy if they're not out there doing all of it on their own. Depending if you have hunters or farmers on your team, right? Like if they're out there, doing their own lead generation, maybe you can have a little bit less in your marketing costs, but other than that, you may have to invest more in that marketing cost, right? If you have to supply your team with the leads. So in those, you'd said so what are some things that you've done along the way? Like you said, the yard signs, the bandit signs, what are some of those things that you've done that are kind of those good startup phase marketing type of like things that you could do in your marketing in that early startup phase?
If I was doing starting up right now, and this has been the biggest thing for us, is Google Local Services, also known as LSA sometimes.
Man,
it is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Just do that. You're not pay-per-click, you're pay-per-actual lead. The app is easy to dispute. If you have like a bogus lead, if they're not doing your services, the lead is not asking for your service, you don't pay for it. That's like the easiest and most significant impact on my business right now. Is LSA is an amazing tool that is almost free. I mean, the cost per lead in our market is between $35 and $53 a lead.
Yeah,
it's unbelievably cheap.
And let's qualify that a little bit, because Home Advisor sells leads also, John.
Sure.
Right. And they both are called a lead. And this is one of the, coming from the marketing side of things, it's what is a lead, right? Like a lead is anyone that raises their hand, right? If someone fills out a form somewhere, right? Those are leads. But in a lead from different sources can be different, right? You could have a lead from Facebook where you run a Facebook ad saying free roof giveaway, enter your information if you need a new roof, and we're going to pick a person that we'll give a free roof to. Those are leads.
Sure.
You're going to probably have a lot of people fill out that form. There's probably not going to be a lot of deals that come from that, because
Correct.
There's a certain person, that's a certain call to action, right? You're speaking to a certain customer or a customer avatar there, someone who may not be able to really afford the roof, right? So, but with these Google Local Services ads, and they've been around now since late 2018. 2019 is when Google started rolling them out across the country into almost every market. And now they are in every market. They're in Canada. They're everywhere now, right? They are all over the place. What is great about the Google Local Services ads leads versus a Home Advisor lead is a Home Advisor lead is someone fills out a form online, and then, a bunch of contractors start calling them. With the local services ads, someone is calling you directly. Sure. They're calling your business.
That's right.
And that is a big difference in what the lead is. And now when we talk about cost per lead, that $35 to $55 versus the $130 to maybe, in some markets, $180 for that roof replacement lead on Home Advisor, with that you haven't even gotten a hold of yet, haven't had a conversation yet. Whether you are new or an existing customer, do Google Local Services.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you're bringing up a really good point, and it's something that, referring back to my previous statement about, hey, you just want to make $1,000 a roof.
Yeah.
Even as a startup, I know there's going to be, the desire, people are going to see you as a startup. You're just a brand new person. You're going to have to be lower priced in the beginning, almost certainly. However, don't do what I did, because it took me about 1.5 years after I was selling jobs to get out of those referrals and the expectation from, let's say, insurance agents, realtors, homeowners. They're all thinking that, oh, John's super nice, great customer experience, way more affordable than everybody else. That's a terrible spot to be in, because I was making no money. I had a ton of leads, and this gets back to what you were just saying, is that the quality of lead is what matters to us now. So our number of estimates has decreased. Our number of leads has decreased from year 3 to now in year 6. And that's intentional. So we want to pre-qualify so hard that we're not wasting time with paying for Eagle views. We're not doing sumo quotes to spend time doing that. Our sales team is not wasting time reaching out to these people. If they're tire kickers and they don't have the ability to qualify for financing, whatever it is, you need to pre-qualify as much as possible. I can't say that enough. I've been the most profitable with the least amount of work over the past 3 years than I was in the first 3 years. We do less lead flow, less estimates, and we make more money because our pricing is fair and we're able to waste less time. There's a lot of money that gets wasted just by running leads. That means driving out there, climbing the roof, flying a drone, whatever you do. Even if you sit in your office and sell it online, you're still wasting a lot of time, and you could be, instead of being in front of somebody who's actually ready to buy.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Pre-qualifying leads, right? So I had a Jason Phillips from Phillips Painting and Phillips Roofing and Painting down in Dallas on, and in his business, he has a call center, right? So he said something very kind of what I thought was was a prolific statement. And it was that there are 2 sales that need to be made along the way. The first is the sale of the appointment, and then the sale of the job, right? Sure. So, but in that sale of the appointment, right? Because when you're selling the job, you're qualifying the prospect at the same time, right?
Sure.
Can we do this job? Can we do it well? Is it, do they even need us? Is it, maybe they could just do a little repair versus having a full replacement. Like, you're qualifying that when you're going out there. What are your thoughts? How do you pre-qualify the lead to save on that time?
So we have a pretty good process. So we use Ruby Receptionist to answer our phones. If you are just a startup and you ever miss a phone call on your business note, if you've published your phone number somewhere, whether it's on yard signs or trucks or internet, and you're missing phone calls, you need to get them right away. It's not going to be as good as a full-time receptionist who you train really well and knows your business and loves you and all those things. But it is going to be a significant difference when a live person always answers you. So whatever it is, it doesn't have to be Ruby. It can be somebody else, but you need that right away. So the reason I like them, and other services do this, is that they're going to ask the same pre-qualification questions that are on our forms. And they do it every time. They're using Calendly, so the question on our Calendly is the same as the questions they're asking. So we're making sure that anyone can be trained to read the questions and ask them.
Yes.
And so they're questions like, what's your timeline for replacing the roof? Like, what type of roofing material? These things, we're trying to get people to invest and to not just say, maybe I'll see how much my roof is. No, you are going to have to do some work here, and how serious are you? And that really, really helps a lot. And as you say this, yesterday, we had an LSA lead come through, and it was a high-end condo. And so I called the lead actually personally. And I basically talked him out of us because I knew it was going to be a waste of time. And you don't want to make somebody mad, but you also need to, I was just pretty blunt with our pricing. It's like, he was trying to do, a beer budget, champagne. And it was the same kind of deal. It's like, hey, this is about a $1,200 repair. And he's like, oh, whoa. And so that's what you want to do. You want your receptionist or your receptionist service to ask the correct question so that you're able to get people not wasting your time. That would have been about a 4 to 5 hour waste of time. I would have done it. If I was 5 years ago, I would have driven. It was about an hour and 45 minutes from me. But it was a really high-end 40 condo place on the coastal region. Super great lead on paper, but then you get down to it, you're talking to the customer and you realize, they're never going to use your service. I mean, he's straight up said, I can do it for cheaper. And the answer is he cannot do it for cheaper than what we were saying. Yeah. Because it was a, chimney cap thing, and they cost what they cost. But bottom line is, I didn't waste 5 hours of my day, or your sales rep didn't waste 5 hours of the day. It's really, really important to get to that. Don't try. I know the games we all play as new owners of businesses. You're like, maybe I can convince them. Maybe I can do it. And every time, you guys know, if you are listening to this, every time you do that, you'll lose. Either you lose money, you have a bad experience with the customer. They don't share your values. There's no way you're getting a 5-star review. No matter how good of a job you do, always try to find your ideal customer and do that with pre-qualification questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's important is you in the beginning, a lot of times you take the money that's available to you. Right? In business, if there's money on the table, I'm going to take it because I need money. I need cash in my business. But as you get, as you settle things out, boy, you don't need to, you better take money that makes you money, that's profitable, that leads to a great customer experience. So that leads to future referrals, reviews, things like that. That's a much better thing to do. In that regard. So how important is it? Do you have the Ruby receptionist set appointments then? You sounds like you have your Calendly, you give them your Calendly link and they set an appointment. How important do you think that is, that they're actually getting an appointment set on that initial phone call?
Everything that I do in our business is I sell how I want to be sold to. So you're right about selling the appointment and then selling the job. I get that's definitely true. If I'm calling a company, it's taking time. I want to get that appointment set right then. I don't want to have to wait for a sales rep to call me back. If you guys are still doing that in the roofing space, stop doing that. Don't do that anymore. Have your system set up so that someone is setting the appointment. We have, again, receptionist services of all kinds are not as good as a full-time receptionist, but they set at least 90%, if not 95% of everyone who calls in. And it's different people every single time. Yeah. And so it's not like that they have some high skill set that they're really good appointment setters. So I say that because if you ask the right questions, and they're really general questions you all know anyway, it's just the same questions you would ask the customer anyway. Just put them in the form, put them in the Calendly form, and the appointment will get set. If it doesn't get set, you're almost certainly never going to work with that person. So like that's what I'd say on that. Like, just have those questions there and the appointment will get set. And make sure that they schedule it. Like, there's just no real reason to not do that now at all.
There's no reason. Right? Like, you can sync so many Google calendars together and, like, you could see everybody's time, who's available at all times. You know what I mean? You could sync them all with Calendly probably and have calendar, I mean, there is no excuse. And then on the other side is, man, if you have to reschedule, then call back.
Sure.
Right? Like, instead of waiting for the salesperson to book the initial appointment, if they have a conflict, they can reschedule the appointment.
Sure.
That's a much different thing, right? That's a much different feeling from a customer experience.
A good example of that is okay, well, you're looking at somebody's calendar, a production person or a salesperson, and you see, all right, well, there's at 9:00 they're going to be here, so at 10:30 they can do this one, and then you don't recognize the address. It's an hour drive away. That's a good example of, like, okay, call back and reschedule, but there really is no reason why you can't make that happen. Like, you can't figure that out. It doesn't take a lot of skill, really, in my mind, to set. The customer wants to set the appointment. If they don't want to set the appointment and they're just trying to get, in the roofing space, you guys know this, if they're just trying to get free advice, don't. You're not going to work with them anyway, so don't worry about setting that appointment. Don't try to trick them into using you. It's just not going to work out. So if they're calling you, they want to schedule the appointment.
Yeah. And if they don't want to schedule the appointment, that is your pre-qualification.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
You are pre-qualifying that.
How many times does a customer call in and say they're talking to either our office manager or Ruby receptionist, and they're saying, "Oh no, can you just have like the owner call me back? I just have some roofing questions." It's like, no, this is not.
No.
That's happened to me like 100 times in 6 years. It's like, that's not what we do. Like, you can come out and pay us to do that. You can pay me $500 and I'll give you some advice, and you can figure it out.
There's like an adage about that, like okay, if you want you to do it for me telling you what to do, it's this price.
Yeah.
Right, like, and then if you
like
want
T-shirts,
like,
right, to have each ascending price points. Like, if you're gonna sit there and watch me, yeah,
yeah, if you can watch, if you want to watch me do it, it's this price. So, yep, right, like, yep. And that's really part of it. So let's go back to the marketing. So you're some of the easy things early on: local services ads, yard signs, and then. What other things have been successful for you, and what things have not been successful for you on the marketing side?
So many things have not been successful. So many things. I promise you, I've wasted more money based on percentage of the revenue that I brought in than anyone else. And don't do a thing where, I would say this advice: don't try a thing and then try it one time necessarily if it's able to do it, because a lot of these things for marketing specifically, marketing and branding kind of go together, but it's more a marketing campaign typically, like Joe Hughes always talks about, like, they're not ready to buy. 95% of your prospects are not ready to buy right now. So you need to think about that. The people that you're talking to, even other professionals in your community that are seeing your marketing, they need to consistently see it. Oh, they're still in business and it's been 2 years. So think about it like that. Like, think about a solid 2-year campaign of whatever you do. I've done a lot of things where I've done it for like a short period of time. Postcards are a good example. I'll send out, I'll spend $4,000 on postcards one time. That is, it's for 4,000 homes, and I've been very strategic about it. But it would be better to find one community, one neighborhood, and just send them postcards 8 times in a row. That would be a better use of your money and more impactful. They're going to actually remember who you are, and when the time comes for you to actually sell a roof, that will be something for postcards specifically to do. PPC, Google PPC is tough now. It's very possible to do. But for me and my markets, Athens is super small. It doesn't really make sense for a smaller market. For larger markets, definitely can. There's a lot of competition, but that's something that I probably shouldn't have spent as much money on for what I'm doing. And the moral of that is, what I'm saying does not necessarily mean that it applies to you and your market.
That's
but
right.
For what I've done, you have to learn, like, always be willing to learn and to make a mistake and then move forward and learn from that situation and whatever you spent money on doing. And I just figured it out. And even the people managing my PPC were great. They were like, "Hey, you probably don't need to do this." And so, like, that was a good thing. You work with people who are going to be honest with you. They're like, "You should spend your money this way." So that I'd work with people who you can trust and have your best intentions. Like, they have the best intentions for you and your company.
For sure.
That's the biggest thing I'd say with working with marketing companies.
And another thing I heard from you is expectations, right? Mm-hmm. Like, to rephrase it a little bit, is that having the proper expectations of what you're doing, like what you're investing in. If you are investing, we hear it way too often when contractors call our company and they're like, "Well, if it's working, I'll spend as much money as it, whatever." That's not marketing, right? Like, that's just not how marketing works. Having expectations on short-term marketing, middle-term marketing, and long-term marketing, everything is a little bit different. Like billboards, direct mail, things like that. Those are long-term marketing plays. Even the wraps on your trucks, right? The sign, like when you're going door to door, that's direct sales, right? That's not marketing. So that's
Sure.
your short term, like door to door, like let's knock on these doors that we know that maybe there was a storm that came through, something like that. Boy, that's an easy one, right? Google local services ads, Google pay-per-click, that's kind of middle term stuff. You have to do it a little bit. Like Google just doesn't give you those spots. You have to warm up to it a little bit. You have to run some campaigns. They have to learn your campaigns. There's a lot of artificial intelligence now in Google ads and Facebook ads and all of these things where there's some learning involved, and that you have to commit to it for a little bit of time, but you also have to have the right expectations of what comes out of it. I see a lot, way too often, where pay-per-click, for example, is one of them, especially companies that don't run pay-per-click in the roofing space, but are talking to a roofing contractor. They don't understand the competition and the cost per click, and then the ultimate cost per lead. And then, if you have a good process of converting those leads and turning those leads into, referrals down the road and things like that, it can work for you. But it's not the first place you invest your money because it's a more expensive lead, right? Like direct mail, like you said, like you can't just drop direct mail and go, well, that didn't work. It's direct mail is one of those things that I think 9 to 18 months you should be doing direct mail consistently before you are able to really truly measure the impact of it. We do direct mail with Dope with our clients too, and we were doing attribution on jobs for people that got mailed a postcard over 6 months ago.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've sold jobs with direct mail 2 years plus. I kept your postcard for 2 years. I was like, they put it in their junk drawer by their refrigerator. And then I was like, what? I mean, we sold big jobs like that. So everything, I'd say this just in general, startup or the transitioning to growth, be diversified. Find something that's working and then diversify. Don't say, I'm just going to put money, like you just said, Jim, like if that's working, I'm just going to keep pumping money into it. Well, that's not a great business plan for marketing perspective. Like you need to have a very diverse, that's the one thing I'd say I learned the most. Diversify your marketing strategy and then be consistent. Depending on how much profit you have and how much money you have to invest, figure out what's comfortable for you and then consistently do that. And I would say in the beginning phases, I'm a spender. I don't really buy, boats and trucks and nice toys. I like to spend money on the business, and people say 5 to 10%. I was way over 10% for the first few years. And so you need to be budgeting that 10% of your revenue. If you're doing $1 million, $100,000 for marketing. Like that is not a crazy number in the beginning, and people never do that. They never do that. And it's like I'm including like, apparel in that. I'm talking about everything, but you need to do it all. Like you need to do as much as you can from that, especially in the beginning. Because if you want to be a local trusted brand, you have to spend money on marketing. And you just need to get that out of your head that you're just going to have all this extra money. It's not the growth will not continue if you don't have a significant marketing budget. So
then back to pricing. I think that a lot of contractors ignore marketing and other aspects of the business in their pricing, right? So when you said you're one of the higher priced contractors in your market, it may be because you're accurately pricing what you need to successfully run your business, right? That includes maybe a 10% marketing budget, or, we see most contractors we see between 3 and 8%, depending on their business model, right? If they're in a storm market.
I've read that too. I've read 3 and 8. I've read 3 and 8. And I was like, I got to do more. And that's how we've had success. You can.
Like and especially in the beginning, right? There's a, like let's all, being realistic about it in the beginning. It's creating momentum. How do you create momentum? do you create momentum with little effort or a lot of effort, right? If you come in guns blazing and you're, all in, like that is much, you are, it's, Grant Cardone wrote the book, The 10X Rule. Have you read that one?
I haven't read it. I know about it very well.
The concept of it is do 10 times what you think you need to do. So if you think you need to talk to 100 people to get, 30 jobs, then in that same time period, talk to 1,000. And the concept is then you guarantee that you get to that number that you were trying to hit.
That's
right? Like it's that the upfront momentum. And so in the beginning, there's a contractor that I know down in the San Antonio area. They were a startup and they came in with large budgets. They invested a lot in the beginning with the understanding that they may not be as profitable in those early years, but they're making the investment up front for future years. Right. And it's hard though, right? Like it's hard, boy. It's hard when you have to pay your bills out of that money or when the money's in your bank account. I know a lot of people like when the money gets into their bank account, it doesn't leave their bank account. Like they don't want it to leave their bank account. Right. And so when you have to take that $100,000 to invest as $1 million a year, owner, boy, that's a scary thing.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's, I mean, I keep thinking about this last week. The more that I have sacrificed in all aspects of my life, my time, money, all those things, the more I have benefited. And I can't stress that enough. Like it's worth the sacrifice. It's worth not buying the nice thing. I mean, my truck is a nice truck. It's a 2021, but it's a work truck. It's intentionally, it's for marketing too. I didn't buy a 75, 80. I'm trying to not step on too many toes. I know there's a lot of guys who love their truck, but I'm telling you, I'm spending $50,000 to $60,000 less than you on my truck. And I'm still getting comments. Oh, that's a nice truck. Okay, great. But I'm selling jobs. I'm using that money for marketing. It's already a marketing tool anyway. I view my truck as a marketing tool. It's not a personal truck. You need to take yourself out of your business and think of that business as an entity you have to take care of. It's your baby. People say that a lot, but really treat it like your baby. Like you have a responsibility using marketing to keep that baby alive. And the only way to do that is to spend money in the marketing. You can't just say, oh, well, I've got a nice truck. It's my personal truck too, but that's not really how it's supposed to be used. It is. There's a lot of money I see over and over again spent on things that don't actually help you sell more jobs when you could be spending the money on things that do help you sell more jobs so that you can buy the nice truck down the road. Like that's what you should be doing. Whatever it is in your personal life, really focus on that marketing side of things. It will benefit you in the long run.
And I think the reinvestment in your business is extremely important. And it doesn't just have to be in marketing, right? It's in your people, in a lot of different aspects. That reinvestment is what ensures your success in the future, right? Sometimes you have to, that's kind of the risk we take as business owners, right? We're a lot of times through the early years, we take a lot less to then in the later years be able to take a little, to have that freedom to take a little bit more, right? Like, if you're not willing to pay that really good production manager, you're going to end up with not a great production manager, which will be
that's kind of how it works.
Which will lead to problems on your jobs, which will lead to time out of your day, which will lead to unhappy customers, which will lead to sales reps who are not not convinced that if they sell this job, you'll be able to produce on it, which leads to them not closing as high, at a high as closing rate, which leads to, so there's so many aspects of the investment in your business, in your marketing, in your people, in your culture, in the whole package, that really, you got to do it.
You do.
You got to do it.
I mean, it's a sacrifice, but it is worth it. It is so much more worth. I mean, I promise you, if I had done those things that every single person that I've known, it's about probably 10 to 15 guys I've known in the past 6 years in my little network of who I've known, have all essentially spent in the wrong places, spent money in the wrong places, whether it's not willing to pay good, like you said, not willing to pay good salaries for employees, not, buying boats or trucks or vehicles, or having too nice of an office that they didn't need just to be on whatever that is. They're all out of business now, every single one of them. And it's like, wait, where do they go? And they were, doing way more revenue than me, doing all this stuff. And it appeared to be good on the outside, but we all know people like that who don't reinvest in the
and not
life
just in
of the
roofing,
business.
in all businesses, right? It's a common thing that happens in businesses, and that's why so many businesses fail. And that's why I loved the conversation starting out, is like knowing your numbers, right? And so now back to that a little bit, where when you talked about, we do have this pending potential economic issue coming up, right? There's a recession there, whatever is happening. You never can understand the extent of these things. In years that have gone by, the Fed has come in and printed some money and kind of leveled things out, and we didn't have to, things didn't have to be realized. The recessions didn't have to be realized as much. And, maybe that'll happen again. Maybe it won't. Maybe there will be a longer period of issues. So now let's talk a little bit about what people may be able to do or prepare for in that regard. So we started with pricing. And I wrote down pricing for making it through these downturns. How are you preparing? How are you thinking about this? How are you preparing? And how are you kind of battening down the hatches to make it through this storm that potentially is on the horizon, to make sure that you are there on the other side?
So again, I'll repeat it again. I'm not a numbers person. I don't like going through my budget. I don't like any of that stuff. But I would just press on anyone in any business, small business specifically, is there anything that you can cut that you don't need to have? They're a nice to have, but not a need to have. Make sure that you're focusing on the things to keep that are actually producing the revenue generating parts of your business. Keep those. Obviously, make sure you're tracking that to make sure, all right, this thing I have in my business is producing revenue and it's producing profit. I've already done that. I mean, we can always do that. There's always things, little, $10 a month, $15 a month, things that you're like, oh, this would be nice. And it is nice. It makes your life better. But then you realize, oh, I should not be paying for that. And so I would say that's the first thing I do, is make sure that you're as lean as possible, so that when the second part is you change your pricing for at least having a value option in your proposals, because you mentioned good, better, best. We're going to have value, better, best. So we're going to make it same thing, but we're going to have, full roof system. This is the middle option. We sell 99% of our roofs, the better option. That's sales 101. The upper tier option, will sell that because there's still people that are on the high income earning that still have the money. They actually benefit from recessions in lots of ways. So we're still going to sell that high end F wave or standing seam. We're going to sell those jobs. But then the value option is going to be there, and you're going to be able to differentiate the price points between the value and the better option. I'd say do that. That's the second thing I do. So know your numbers again, review them right now, review them before Christmas, before the end of this week, and cut out as much as you can, and focus on the things in your budget that are going to make you more money. That things that you don't, if you don't answer your phone, make sure you have somebody answer your phone. Whatever process. If you don't have a good proposal system, make sure you're proposing. Make sure you're keeping those things that differentiate you. If you're not following up with people, make sure you're following up. Somebody on your team needs to be following up. If you're, all those things, if you're not getting reviews, those are things that are going to produce revenue for you. Reviews will produce revenue, because if you have reviews, your ranking is going to go up. So next time someone needs a roof, and it could be recent, in a very short period of time, that review could actually be the next job that you sell. Those are the things I'd focus on. And then everything else, try to be as lean as possible and make sure that your pricing is you have an option for a value option. That's what I do. That's what I'm going to do for myself right now.
I'm going to add to it. I'm going to say do that on a personal level a little bit too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right. Like because if you can, because in going into economic like recessions and things like that, going through them and making it through them, a lot of times it's the need to take cash out of the business to maintain a specific lifestyle that will end up being the biggest harm to your business.
Yep.
Right. And so if you can do that on a personal level too, hey, what don't we need right now? Right.
Yep.
Right. What don't we need right now? Can we make some shifts in this right now? Because a lot of times, when you go through something like this, there's a couple of things that happen, and you could chime in on this too, John. Like if you think, I'm on the right track. First of all, like I said, back in 2008, 2009, as labor became very inexpensive because labor was looking for work, right? So, but that means that employees' employment goes on sale. Right. So that you may be able to find great employees, but if you're not in a position to be able to offer them a job, you might be able to pick up a couple of good employees that were at a company that did not do well in their management of this. Right. And so a couple of good employees, you might be able to pick up some good employees if you are in a position.
That's
Another
right.
thing that I really think of is that we have a responsibility as business owners to protect the team that we have, and to keep to keep the team in place, to keep your best crews working, right? Because if you're not able to fill their time, someone else may.
Yep.
Right. And so that, this kind of is what I'm thinking of in terms of your profitability, is like maybe sometimes you might make less to keep it running, right? But that's some things. What do you in these things? A lot of times it almost becomes self-fulfilling, though. This is another thing I was thinking of is there was in the housing crash in 2008 and 9 and 10, like as things were going down, it was like it was a race to the bottom. And it almost became self-fulfilling in some ways, right? Is that, we all just keep getting cheaper. We all just keep getting cheaper. And there was this race to the bottom. Do you have any thoughts on how you plan on managing through that type of a situation?
Yeah. So definitely remember that in a big way. The story I'd say is that the company that I worked for when I first started roofing in 2009, maybe it was 10, I can't remember. They were, again, one of the highest priced roofing companies, and they had record years in 2009, 10, and 11. And so highest priced, record years, not a huge company, but, for that market, the leader. They were definitely the leader in the roofing space in Athens. So, the pricing is not always the issue. It still goes back to the process and the customer experience. That's why I'm saying you've got to have good marketing, but you have to have a good experience. You have to have somebody answering the phone. You have to have a good proposal. All that mattered. Like now the expectations from customers are even higher than it was 10, 12 years ago.
Yes.
So you really, 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 really have to focus on that. Otherwise, you will race to the bottom. Everyone will do that. So if you set yourself apart, okay, here are the pitfalls you'll avoid if you choose to work with us. And they're going to be like, well, what we saw in that depression or recession was
Yep.
that people did not want to make a bad decision. They
For sure.
did not want, about the roof specifically. They like, if I'm going to spend, $12,000, I don't want to save $1,000 and make a wrong decision with this company
Yes.
who won't do a good job. So I'd say there is a pricing. You want to be tight on your pricing, but I would also say make sure you, more than ever, ensure the homeowner that you're going to do a good job and you're going to be there. And part of it is leverage. Hey, we need to be profitable so we stay in business. So the warranty that we give you means something.
That's right.
I'd say I'd definitely leverage that a lot.
For sure. What do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's helped you find success in your roofing business?
Surround yourself with people, both personally and professionally, that help you grow and keep you on the right path. Consume as much content as you can that's helpful, and be very, very consistent in applying that to your business. That's been the biggest thing for me, is not just going to conferences and reading a bunch of books and listening to podcasts and having coaching. All that's great. It's all fine. But you have to actually do the things that you know will make you profitable and are aligned with your vision, and do them on a consistent basis. The little mundane things on a consistent basis are the thing that I've been most successful with, and I believe that most people will have success doing those things.
Awesome, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.